Wife asked for an open marriage. Is she poly or just cheating? Hi everyone, welcome back to another Reddit cheating story. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you won't miss another cheating story goes live. So, I've been lurking in this group for a while now, and I thought I'd introduce myself and let you know my story as to why. It's about the most emotionally painful experience of my entire life. I'm sorry if my story gets a little long. I will try to keep it as condensed and precise as I possibly can. At the end of May, my wife, 36F, came to me, 43M, and asked to open up the marriage. I was shocked and confused, and I felt very insecure and hurt. There were a number of things that caused us to rarely be intimate. She had health issues, and though we had been married 7 years in that time, she was pregnant twice, and both of the kids co-slept with us. In fact, the youngest is still in the bed with us. This made intimacy more difficult. Neither of us thought the other was interested, so we had only been intimate maybe once every 3 or 4 months or so. I would have preferred more often, but often felt stone-walled and so never pushed the issue. Anyway, I didn't know how to take the idea of opening the marriage, and was hurt at the idea of her being with anyone else, especially since I wanted to be with her and we weren't very often. She, towards the end of her last marriage, had opened it, and she had dated others at that time. She and I had talked about this when we first got together, and she expressed that those days were a bit chaotic, and I had told her that though I could fantasize about being with multiple women, I knew that in reality I needed an emotional connection to be intimate, and that was something I couldn't do with more than one person. So, when she brought up opening the marriage, I knew that this was something that I would be unable to participate in even if she did. I loved her, though, so I told her I would consider it. I also told her that my initial reaction is that it would be extremely emotionally hard for me. Our conversation that night felt a little weird to me, though, and so before we went to bed I asked her if there was someone in particular that she had in mind. She said no, but likely that it would be someone she knew from when she opened her marriage before. She claimed that this would be good because it could be someone she was already comfortable with, and back then she lived in Southern California, and now we live in Sacramento, so this would be someone she would only meet up with occasionally so that we could maintain our day-to-day routine and not have that intrude in our normal life. This still seemed odd to me still, and it turned out that the next night she came clean and told me the truth. A guy from back when she had an open marriage had contacted her 5 months before, and that they had been corresponding for 5 months already, and he was polyamorous. He had a girlfriend and they just had a baby together, during the time she was talking to him online. My wife's AP's girlfriend, like me, was very uncomfortable with him being with my wife. My wife, when telling me about his girlfriend, made it out as if his girlfriend was just very insecure. I even hate to think that my wife was okay with any of this at the time, but now after doing a lot of my own research about affairs I understand how my wife, who is usually so brilliant and who honestly loves me, and even did at the time love me, could be so unconcerned with everyone else's feelings. The thing is, she was deep in her affair fog at the time, but I knew nothing about any of this, and I of course was in my own fog, feeling insecure, scared, and confused. My wife and I have 5 children. The 3 oldest are from her previous marriage, and the 2 youngest are biologically mine. Though the 3 oldest are not my biological children, I've raised them the last 7 years, and they only visit with their biological dad for a short period each year, because he lives across the country, so those 3 think of me more as their dad than their biological dad. Also, I am the sole breadwinner of the family. Originally, before the pandemic shutdowns, I made my living teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. When I was doing that, I was only working about 20 hours a week, which gave me lots of time at home with my family, which I relished. When the pandemic hit, for a few reasons I couldn't get the full amount of unemployment I should have, and the only thing that got us through was the emergency $600 a week. It would have been only $65 per week if it wasn't for that. When their emergency $600 supplement was ended, I got a job with a friend, but I ended up working around 50 hours a week to make ends meet. And it was during this time when I was away so much that my wife started her emotional affair. I'm still working that much even now, and I am still frustrated about not having enough time with my family. I was in a place where I didn't know what to do. I wanted to make my wife happy, but the more I considered it, the more I knew this setup would devastate me emotionally. I could imagine myself in the situation of her going off to meet this guy and being at home taking care of the kids, and just thinking about it was a traumatizing experience. You know the crazy thing? In those first few days I was so dazed by the shock, worried about how to handle it, and what would be the right thing to do, that the fact that she had a 5-month emotional affair hadn't even hit me yet. Later, once I was able to organize my thoughts about having an open marriage, it came back and hit me hard. Which stunk because I was still dealing with the open marriage/poly. She added during this time that she thought she was poly too, thing at the same time. So, over the next couple of days I swung back and forth over whether I could be okay with her doing it or not. I think that her AP was feeding her the polyamorous Kool-Aid during this time, because the fact that I was explaining that this would emotionally devastate me, and that I was thinking that it would ruin our relationship didn't really faze her. She said that jealousy was normal and it's something people have to work through. I researched and read Reddit, I found resources online, and I thought a lot about what I understood good relationships to be, and I was finally able to, despite my lack of consistently good cognitive reasoning due to the shock of everything, came to the conclusion that this was something I could not be okay with. If she chose to do this, what she and I had would be over. I told her that if she needed that, that was fine, but that then she and I would need to separate and she would need to allow me the time to grieve and then move on so that I could be open to find a relationship where I could have what I needed. It was also at this point that the fact that she cheated for 5 months online hit me, and that she still has feelings for a man she was talking to daily while I was stuck at work. Those days were the worst, and it had a financial effect on our family. I would often break down at work and would have to go home early because I was crying. She spent 2 weeks deciding whether she was going through with it or not, and basically wanted me, even if we weren't together in the same way, to stay and act the part for the kids. I knew that even if I tried that I was too much of an emotional person to pull that off for long. She eventually decided that our relationship was too important to her to go through with it, but she wanted to continue her online relationship with him as friends. We were having hard conversations daily and periods of hysterical bonding and going on dates and working on us, followed by times of her stonewalling me while I tried to show affection, or being angry at me because I was still very hurt and I would get triggered by things. It would always come back to me asking her to go no contact with her affair partner, and she would refuse. I started individual counseling and tried to work on myself, and that was helpful for me, and I continued to express my feelings always with the belief that my wife really did love me deeply, and having faith in her as a person that she would eventually come around because she did love me. It was hard. This started in May, so all of the times of the year that were to celebrate me, Father's Day and my birthday, feel smack dab in the middle of my emotional turmoil. The thing is, I believed in my wife, and it eventually paid off, and one night she just held me and listened to me express my pain without getting defensive. Everything changed that night. The next night she told me she would go no contact with AP, and a few days later she did. Since she went no contact, a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders. I still get triggered by things every so often, her getting and sending messages on her phone, TV shows with infidelity in them, which is like every show. And her listening to epic music. It's not really a favorite of mine, but I know her and her AP bonded over their love of it. Despite that, in other ways, things are better than they've ever been. My wife sends me messages to let me know she's thinking of me when I'm at work, we have had more consistent intimacy, and there is a comfort between us that wasn't there before. I am less likely to feel like something I might say to her would cause her to blow up or get upset with me. I'm still worried that someday this will come back to bite me again. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for any future cheating stories.